day to you. This is Jodipongratz reporting on the Capricorn full moon. I feel like a reporter. I just was about to start work here and get my second post up for astrology ever publicized. And right when I went to start there was all this honking outside. And so I went outside to see, like, I was out on my balcony and my neighbor was out. It sounded like, I was like, did we win a game or something? And here I am in Vancouver and the truckers are on strike. Something about equal pay issues and how it's going to just trickle down and affect people in general, right? So the truckers are all lined up at the port here because I'm on Port Street of Vancouver here. It's like a main artery. And it was pretty awesome seeing the union of truckers like uniting and getting together and the power that it holds, not even just like in the sound. This is a great metaphor, actually, this is a great metaphor for the energies that we are embarking on, because this is all things Capricorn full moon. And this is our second full moon here. And it's conjunct Pluto, and I'll get into this. So we've got our Capricorn full moon happens today, this morning, early morning at 3:16 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's at 29 degrees and 8 minutes of the moon is in Capricorn, and right up opposite of it in this chart is the sun, and that's what you have a full moon, right? This is the sun lighting up the moon in the sky, and boy, was it bright last night. So the sun is at 29 degrees and 8 minutes of Cancer. And so when you have this axis, you have these two signs across from each other, the sun and moon opposing. You have Capricorn, which is the papa, and you have Cancer, which is the mama, just to put it simply. And this is the parental axis because one is a public part of our chart, which is Capricorn, and one is the private part of our chart, which is Cancer. And so when it comes to Cancer themes and the sun being in Cancer, you might have felt like a little more tired or needing more rest. I just really felt like it's hot out and all I want to do is read my book in the park and relax. And what are some of the things that we do to nourish ourselves? Whereas, the moon being in Capricorn, that is Cancer's planet, by the way. So the moon doesn't really like being in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn, and it's cold, uncomfortable, stark. He's practical. He's reliable. He gets things done. But this is very much not the moon's territory. The moon is all about how do I take care of myself? How do I nourish myself? It's like the mothering of the self energy. So reparenting is much on the table here. There is a lot going on in this chart. So not only do we have this full moon today, energies happening, we also have Pluto conjunct the moon. So what does that mean? That means Pluto is holding hands with the moon here. And Pluto is about power and deep truths and deep psychological digging. Pluto represents death and rebirth. Pluto can represent our fears, what's unknown, what is hidden. Pluto is the secrets. So if we're studying the transit of how Pluto is moving around in the sky, we are seeing quite the story unfold here. Pluto had made its way into Aquarius earlier this year. That would have been on the new moon in January of 2024, on the 11th, was when Pluto made its way into Aquarius to stay. Now, it's not the first time Pluto's made its way into Aquarius. Pluto takes 250 years to go around the chart, so this is a very interesting degree point because it also is connected to the United States, and this is where Pluto returned to the place of the birthing of the United States, or the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So it's really very fascinating to follow what's happening in the States right now. I mean, lots and lots of stuff is going down. It's basically, Pluto moves into a sign and all hell breaks loose. No, just kidding. He tills the soil. He unearths the secrets. Pluto holds the secrets. So there's a lot of that can be said of the crumbling of the capitalist society that we know of for millennia, forever, right? That's all of us that are alive on this planet today have lived under a capitalist society. So when Pluto is just tearing the stuff down, and it's an ongoing saga. Pluto is going to re-enter Capricorn coming up here. Geez Louise, I got really stumped there. I was like, when is that happening? I'm a little disorganized with my notes, I guess. That's in September of 2024. So when Pluto goes back into Capricorn, it's going to be at that 29th degree, which is where this full moon is taking place today. So this is a very powerful point because any 29th degree, I mean, this is a culmination. This is an ending of society as we know it. Just kidding. I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but I would like to read you the Sabian symbols of Capricorn at 29 degrees, because we will see this Pluto re-entering and touching on this point. So it's a woman reading tea leaves. Now, this really spoke to me right off the hop. So this is by Dan Rudier, an astrological mandala. And he channeled all the degree points on the natal wheel. And the reason why I really enjoy reading these is because it's really cryptic and metaphoric, but it's very impressive information. Like, it really hits my psychic side, my psychic self. And right here, there's a woman reading tea leaves. I mean, I don't mean to be so basic, but for about 150 years, just before I dive into this, we've had an ongoing sextile between Pluto and Neptune in the sky. And just to honor Susan Hopkinson, as she's an astrologer that you can follow on YouTube, her take on it is that it signifies propaganda, and that really says a lot. That really makes a lot of sense. And she has this really great video that I watched recently about covering Oswell's reading of War of the Worlds, and how when it was on the radio, and when people heard it, they thought, I think it was the 1930s, people thought that they were actually being invaded. The world was being invaded by aliens, and then she goes into his natal chart, Oswell, excuse me. I'm trying to do all this on a Sunday morning, let me tell you. She's a really great astrologer to follow, especially if you like politics. She does do some, she does cover, she was in politics for many years and studied it and worked in it and got out of it, and now is an astrologer. I really enjoy watching her videos. And actually, before I get into reading this, I do want to, before I forget, I want to talk about, she brings up, when she covers the Capricorn full moon in her video, she brings up Guru Purnima, which is an Indian astrological point on the chart that honors teachers. And so I thought that was really cool, because I was like, well, I'm going to mention her while I'm doing my little podcast here. But also, I hope to like bring up a lot of astrologers because like what she was saying was that we don't, we don't get to greatness without, like, we are inspired and we build on what is brought to us through teachers. So it's also a really great time to talk about how we've like learned what we've learned and what we know when we know, and and then we go back to our innermost wisdom, our inner self. So a woman reading tea leaves, Capricorn at the 29th degree, the keynote is the ability to see the signature of hidden meaning in every occurrence, drawing one's attention. And so a lot of the astrologers that I studied with, they sort of had similar themes about this new moon. And from Moon Omens, another teacher on YouTube, she speaks about watch for synchronicities during this time. And I was like, oh my gosh, the truckers are back today, right? It's just really awesome. It's like there's people power there. Now, if I haven't already said it, Pluto rules power, rules your inner power. And Moon Omens asks us to face our own personal darkness and hell and transmute it. And I love this. It's what she asks, what, and I ask you, and I ask myself, what do I have to give back in this world to help while I'm healing myself? And the question is, how do you meditate? And I ask, do you do it being still or do you do it moving? Is there, you can do walking meditations. Do you do it running? And this is how we become co-creators of our lives. There's no shortcuts with Saturn here, Capricorn. Saturn is about working hard for rewards, right? So it's like the more effort we put into ourselves and our own personal healing, the more we will be in a state of personal power. We'll allow ourselves. The biggest thing that Moon Omens is asking us to do is to feel the pain and just know that it is one of our greatest teachers. Pain and darkness, like our shadow side. Some of us, like Pluto can represent the dark night of the soul if you're into that spiritual aspect of living. And Molly McCord likes to say we have a punch card for, some of us have a punch card for dark nights of the soul. But it's like there's no hiding from it. And this is what she's sort of like, I'm jumping around here. I'm just trying to sneak in the honoring of my teachers, right? This is the idea of this point. And certainly Capricorn can represent people in authority, can represent teachers, can represent bosses, and when we incorporate these ideas of inside out, Cancer, Capricorn, these themes of like our personal inner self-loving, nourishing on the day-to-day, and then we take that out into the world and then we contribute to the world. This is when we can really contribute the best of ourselves to the world, is when we're like on solid ground. Now, there's nothing solid about solid ground. There's no solid footing right now. Like it's a lot of volatile energy in this chart, but that's not to say that we have to lose ourselves amidst the chaos and the crazy. We are completely inundated, as you may have noticed, with sorry, I almost knocked over my drink. Okay, I'm just sitting back down. I gotta calm down. I gotta refocus. It's funny because I took a little break there, and and I got myself some water and whatnot. And I ended up I look at the clock and it's 3:33. Well, here's a synchronicity for it. I was like, I got to throw away all these notes and just like really riff off of the chart from my perspective. I am trying to incorporate a lot of these wonderful wisdoms that I used in order to motivate myself, but I also have to like trust in my ability to read what I know in astrology and in reading these charts to you. So that's a little bit of my private self made public. Just kidding. But if we can look at if we face our own personal darkness and we can transmute it. But if we hide from it and just ride these waves of like discomfort, because that's what this signifies, Pluto on the moon. It's not a comfortable feeling. Like the moon likes to be in its cave. It doesn't mind the darkness, but it doesn't, want to see the scary things in the cave. It just wants to cuddle up in a fuzzy blanket and just enjoy the warmth and the smell of the campfire. But with Pluto there, it's kind of like there's no campfire right now. It's it's time to see what the heck this earth is that you're lying on, that you're trying to have a nap on. But it's like this is definitely an ending here. 29 degrees. It's the very end before we start the next 30 degrees at 0, which is where Pluto is. So it's really by facing these uncomfortable truths, we discover a little bit of like authenticity in there. This is what we're building, like inner strength. And I'm going to ask you to think back to January 11th, around that time. Like, what were you thinking about? What were you planning? What were you doing? What was the intention? If you work with intentions on new moons, what were you setting? So this is a 6-month moon cycle. Like the moon goes around the chart, it goes around in the cosmos there every 30 days. So sometimes people set intentions on the new moon. And then on the full moon, whatever seed you planted on that new moon, on the full moon, it's illuminated. We see the fruit beginning to bud or not. And this is just information, like, hooray, especially with Capricorn, it's like you worked really hard and you got that raise. All right. But it's like, is it really stressing now? Like, are you just doing that for the money, this job, or are you really enjoying the work that you put in order to get the result? And so a lot of these are all themes that are really applicable when it comes to Capricorn. We're talking about career, social status, the 10th house, the most public, our most public place. And this is at a culmination point, the ending of a 6-month cycle when we had the new moon in Capricorn. And back then, that's when I published my first video, and I went, I was still dealing personally with a lot of grief. I was kind of shitting the bed in my community, like in my apartment building, let's say, like in terms of, I was just, I was being, let's say selfish, but I just really did not have it in me to, let's say, be a good neighbor. I mean, I'm just really giving a very lame example, but also during that time, I was playing music with my friend. I was making something creative with it. And, Timothy Halloran of Rasa Leela Healing. He is another astrologer that I belong to his astro school, and it was around that time I did my first Q&A with him, and he does a speed read for you, and I really value his insights. He's an evolutionary astrologer, and he just really lays it out on the table, like right in front of you. So around that time, I was, I was studying a lot and learning more about myself, investigating, what it is I actually value, and what I want to contribute, and how my work, which is challenging work, I work in the downtown east side, and without getting into all that, and I mean, if you don't know what that means, it's the poorest postal code in Canada. So we have a lot of mental health and addiction, and lack of housing is a big problem in Vancouver. And I find it interesting that, my housing is something that I, like, let's say I was taken for granted. And I'm not saying I'm like a bad neighbor, bad tenant, or what have you. But I just kind of thought, I just kind of thought that my house would always be here, And then I got served an eviction notice. And it's like, what? Suddenly my world is rocked, And my world was already rocked with the death of my mother. And in my last, if you listen to the last podcast, that was definitely something that I was sharing and grappling with, and these types of things. And I was just really, with the second year, it's like I was really learning how, like, really missing my mom. Really, it's interesting because Cancer, like I said, these are mothering energies, right? And it's like learning to live in the world without my mother. And as Saturn, can be viewed as restriction, is transiting through my fourth house, which is my place of home. This is something that is really fascinating because, it's Saturn's like the building manager and comes in and says, "Oh, how is everything working here?" And is this up to code? Is this up to speed? And Saturn is like conjunct my IC right now, so it's like where he has been over the last little bit. And so what that is the lowest part of the chart, the most private part. It's a Cancer ruled house, and when you can look at Saturn as a planet of restriction, but Saturn, he's also the gatekeeper, and he's asking if, like, did you do the work? No, go back and do it again. And I was listening to the Leo King, and when he was covering Saturn and his Saturn masterclass, he was covering Saturn and Cancer, and he was like, well, you can't rely on your mom anymore to do it, so you got to mom yourself, kind of thing. And I was just like, wow, that really hits home, right? And so I feel like these last 6 months, I've been performing this. How do I mom myself? And it's like this is what I meant when I started the podcast about reparenting the self. It's like our parents are there or not. Everybody has different families, but they give us the tools, they give us the strategies, they demonstrate how you can get through this, how this sort of works in the world, how when you do this might be a result, these kind of things. They provide for you, they protect you. At least that's the hope from all families. I mean, like, for sure, over and above. Like, I had a really good mom. Not everybody is as fortunate, you know. But it's like, it doesn't really matter what kind of background an individual comes from. More honking. It's like when you mature, which Saturn rules maturity, Capricorn themes as well. When we mature, we part of maturity is taking responsibility for the self and parenting yourself and reparenting yourself in a way that, you know, works for you in this world, because, you know, we're all individuals. So I guess when some people are going to be really shocked and rocked at this time. Personally, this is, you know, I got into a bit of like mundane astrology, like politics there. And I do recommend you check out any of the astrologers I've mentioned, their videos on covering the United States and their Pluto return. You know, there's Steve Judd, Timothy Halloran, Molly McCord has a good series that she made quite a, like everyone's got. Leo King is quite the deep diver. Raising Vibrations, Simon does some good stuff, and Susan Hopkinson I've already mentioned. So so just sticking with the personal stuff, it's like this is definitely a reparenting time. Some people are going to be shocked because, you know, on July 15th there we had the Mars-Uranus conjunction. So that is a very triggering point. And this Uranus at 26 degrees of Taurus is still sitting on Algol, who is basically Medusa, who gets, you know, turns men to stone. She's a demon. And she is defeated by being beheaded. So it rules beheading. And this point, I believe it's this point, is conjunct. I'm just going to double check that here. Donald Trump's MC. Yeah, his MC is at like 24 degrees. So this, it was right on, you know, and he was literally shot in the head. But there's going to be across the world. There's like you know, personally, we're being asked to face ourselves and be honest with ourselves. I mean, like Simon says, from Raising Vibrations, you can just ride that wave and like just go through the discomfort, or you can like use it constructively. Moon Omens also addresses that, the constructive use of these energies, right? So there'll be a lot of leaders being challenged because of these signatures that are happening in this cosmos right now, all these energies. But you could check out Pam Gregory for more of that. She's really good at summing that stuff up. But for me, the personal is the biggest piece for us all, because I really believe that, you know, I'm talking about the breaking down of capitalism with Pluto's reflecting it in the sky there, going back and forth over that 0 degrees Aquarius and 29 degrees Capricorn degree point. You know, over I think it's September. Yeah, he's September 1st. He goes back into Capricorn, and this little back and forth on this 29 degree point, it's like, you know, the whole breaking down of the civilization that we've lived in. Some people like to call it the Matrix, right? The veil, the Maya. It's like we can prepare ourselves from the inside. Like what are you building while things are breaking around you? You know, there's a lot of chaos. You get a lot of information. There's a lot of wild ride. Like, you could really get swept up and get really into this low vibrational energy of negativity and like the world is ending. And I've certainly been there. I used to have a political radio show for years, and I covered like all the activism, all the environmental, I even wanted to have, whatchamacallit, universal basic income. I was tooting the horn for that for a while until I realized it's about control. Capricorn, control. It's not a good deal after all, because if you step out of line with your government, then they could just keep your money. We've already seen this in Canada quite a bit. I'm just all things like the truckers are beeping in the background, so I'm just very riffing about politics. I'm kind of weaving it in, but it's just like a reflection, right? So it's like if we can stay calm, like centered, while the chaos just kind of tills around us, because we're going to see more of it, right? Like this coming months in this year, like there's always going to be energies that push us forward, challenging things, and these are important. Like like Moon Woman says, these are our best teachers. Like when we feel discomfort, when we're getting pushed to the limits, and we just like, I just want this to be over, and it's like, well, no, you still got some more work to do. But if we can make ourselves solid on the inside and centered while the chaos is tilling around, is going haywire, and like Pam Gregory says, bare feet on the earth, like stay grounded. Do your practices. Like even Leo King got into it with his Capricorn full moon video. I am on his High Vibe TV as well. He's got some really great classes. But he gets into how it's just kind of mayhem, and what's coming forward is more of it. But he's pleased you, like, keep going, put the work in. Capricorn's about put the work. It's that I explained in the last video. It's like the mountain goat on the hillside climbing to the top, and like Moon Woman says, it can be lonely up there because you can only make it to the top by yourself. So these times when we're going through dark nights of the soul, like if you do feel alone, just know that it's just a point in time, and do those as Leo King says, like do the soothing things. The tools are all around you, utilize them. Oh, sorry, that was raising vibrations. I'm just trying to sneak in my teachers, right, my gurus. But use the tools and then move on, and so you can grow beyond the limits. Like we're capable of so much more. And like Moon Woman says, like find out what your superpower is. What is your superpower? Like rather than sticking in this pattern of victimization. Oh, why is this happening to me? Oh, why are these bad things in the world happening? Well, because it's pushing the evolution of humanity forward, and like personally. And Pluto rules evolution for sure. He's a pusher. He's the deep digging, you got to dig deep to heal high. This is what Moon Woman says. So this Uranus and Mars conjunction that just happened recently is trining this moon. So it's sort of like this, whatever was triggered there is really helping with this ending, this moving on point, right? An ending starts a new beginning. But this Mars conjunct Uranus, like Uranus is breakthroughs, breakdowns, sudden changes, rules revolution, right? Uranus is quite the revolutionary planet. And Mars is like the god of war. He is the masculine piece of the chart. He's also the maverick and impulsive. He's the fire ruled, so it's quite a dynamic duo when you put these two together. And last time they were together, they were conjunct the North Node in Taurus, like a couple years ago. So it happens about every 2 years. They come together. And this time they're conjunct that fixed star Algol. And so, this is volatile energy. It can even be violent. But trining the full moon here, it's a harmonious peace. So whatever volatility that we experience or we're triggered by, like, it depends on your own chart. Like, you would apply these transits and these planets to your own chart to see how it is affecting you personally. And some people are going to feel it more than others. This is the case with any transits, the planets moving around in the sky. But these explosive eruptive energies, they can be used in a constructive way. Says Moon Omens. You can liberate ourselves from the conditioning, the teacher, the Capricorn Papa piece, Cancer Mama piece, but like how we've been taught, trained to, how we've allowed others to influence us. That is anything inauthentic, she says. We can unlearn that behavior. That's how we can use this constructively. Like, there's all kinds of like shitty videos up there, like people reacting and responding to the Trump getting shot, and it's like, at the end of the day, he's a man. He's a man behind these things. Like, he may not be the smartest man. Like, I mean, honestly, like, I think the biggest thing he's guilty of is just being kind of dumb, But whatever, everybody gets to have their opinions. But I mean, there's like, the thing is, I'm not totally shocked, but it's like, there's other leaders that really should be arrested before him, So I won't go down that alley too far because I did want to keep this on the personal. We are seeing a square to Chiron this full moon. It's a 6-degree orb. And so that is definitely going to speak to, it's a T-square actually between this full moon. It's like a little less than 6 degrees. So we'll take it. And, Chiron is the wounded healer. He speaks to those childhood wounds, where initially we were hurt. That's how you read it in a chart. And then as we mature, again, with that reparenting piece, we learn to treat it more tenderly. And I say reparenting, I use that loosely. It could be like just whoever your impressionable guides were growing up. So again, bosses, authority figures, teachers, but parents are the most intimate, closest ones to us. And since we're talking about the moon here, that's going to be the most intimate egoic self, whereas the sun is the outward egoic self, let's say. But it's the squares to our inward and outward egos, ego in general, from Chiron here, is telling us, in Aries, so it is about the self. It's how we were hurt and how we are it's about our identity as well. So that's a painful piece, and Chiron has been here and is here for a while. He's in some signs longer than others. And I believe that he's in this Aries because we really have ourselves at a point in humanity, like the collective is really having to heal our sense of identity, how we view ourselves, because these, the moon is the emotions, and in Saturn represents security, inner security. So it's like, how do we discipline ourselves to take care of ourselves in maybe a new way, or maybe a tried and true way, in order that it can absolve some of the crisis of our own personal identity, something along those lines. This is the inner child. I'm focused on the moon now. The inner child versus, maturity, discipline, structure, consistency. It's like how do you tell a 3-year-old that they can't have cake for dinner, right? Like, I mean, as an adult, you might just decide, I'm just going to have that cake for dinner. If that's going to make you feel good in the moment, like, indulge, because this is a crisis point. We have to heal these, how we identify and how we see ourselves. And we're building this authentic way of relating to the world and ourselves and each other and like relationships. There's Mercury is at 26 degrees in this chart, squaring that Uranus in Taurus. So, Uranus in Leo can be a bit of a hothead. It could be like quick with the tongue, very witty, very charming, very fun. But he's in his shadow before he stations retrograde here. So let's look at that for a second. So this is, it's similar to when he was in shadow before he stationed. He's stationing retrograde coming up here. And, he's in retrograding in fire signs this year as opposed to, I believe it was earth signs last year. So what was happening during these months of Mercury retrograde in 2023 for you? It's, it's good to reflect on that. But this square aspect, and you can look that up when those were. Mercury squaring Uranus is, and the Mars conjunction. I mean, they're still only 4 degrees apart. So you may feel frustrated from not saying something, or you may have hurt people with your words, like adversely. But Moon Omens says, learn to save our energy and release it in a healthy way rather than waste our energy. It's kind of like thinking before you speak kind of thing. And it is, a lot of it is like, especially, let's say online, Mars is ingressed into into Gemini. Now he's at 0 degrees, 23 minutes today. And so there's a lot of great videos you can find to let you know what that means. But, it's a very distractive time. But from distraction to intoxication, like drinking life in, according to the gene keys. If you're not into that, you got to get into that. That stuff's amazing. The path is through enrichment. So what does that mean? So basically the shadow, like these gene keys, this is the 56 gene key. And it might sound like, well, I don't want to, indulge in addictions, I mean, there is a lot of that on, in the energies with Neptune at the 29th degree, but just to stick with this Mars and Gemini piece for a minute. So distraction is, what that is. You get, we're on our phones, we're online, kids have tablets at 2, maybe even younger, and there's really, there's no time for contemplation and just being bored. There's no time to be bored. We're just going to fill all the spaces and all the places with like information. And we can end up being overstimulated. Like there's I forget where I got this information, but there's a bit of a prediction that the generations that were raised on tablets, say, and I'm not criticizing anybody's parenting. I mean, let's face facts. You gotta pay the bills. You gotta work hard. You gotta, you gotta, et cetera, et cetera. Sorry, I kicked the table. But it's, these kids are going to grow up and they're going to have a video game, or if they don't already, or information addiction. And so what's possible is there's going to be a period of like, I got to come off this addiction, you know? And it's like, and it's overstimulation. But the path is enrichment. So it's about turning within. True enjoyment is rooted inside your being rather than in the external. So it's come full circle now, you know, and it's like we could spend our time like distracting ourselves with the news, let's say all the mainstream news, but it doesn't, you know, anything that we use, you know, to distract ourselves, overworking, TV, you know, overeating, like instead of like sitting in the discomfort, which is Pluto, and allowing that pain to, let's say, motivate us to be our most authentic self. Now, I'm not saying like you have to go and like suffer to like in order to evolve, but there, like collectively, I mean, that's really what we're getting at here. So through turning within, through the path of enrichment, you know, it's a gift. This is the 56th gift is a gift of feeling, or this path is a gift of feeling, of sensuality and aliveness. It means that you find wonder where others find monotony, and you find beauty where others see ugliness. It is about appreciation and gratitude. The more grateful you are for every moment, the more the moment comes alive within you. Yeah, and it's so, it lies in communication. Gemini is communication. It's, you know, the third, it rules the third house. It also, you know, speaks of like preschool. And so we learn to how we talk to others, communicate with others. And so this square from Mercury, which is, that's Mercury's sign, is Gemini. So it's very important at this time to be present and to shine our greatest selves, says Moon Omens. You know, because we can learn from any experience that is heavy. It doesn't make it, like, she advises don't try and make it easier, but get real about it. You know, and with Mercury, that's thinking. That's a thinking plan. That's how we think, speak, communicate, articulate, tell stories, share stories, you know, and squaring this, like, dynamic revolution, we can get really creative, like Leo, where Mercury is. That's the sign of creativity, isn't it? It's the artist there. It's one, you know, one of the signs that represents artistry, and it's a self-expression. So it doesn't have to be like the artist that makes money. It could just be like, I'm going to get my hands dirty and I guess get my thoughts dirty. Oh, that was good. But, you know, the intent here, like, is not to provoke others in a destructive way, right? We're trying to be constructive or be passive aggressive. Like, oh, I'm not speaking out against this, that I see this pain, like this volatility, explosive situation or thought pattern that someone else has. It's like basically someone online, right? It says something and like I'm gonna rebuttal. I'm gonna tear down that person until they, you know, crash and burn, and never post another, you know, meme or whatever in their lives. You know, it's like, what a waste of energy. Like, you could have been like writing a song or whatever. So speaking of the 56 cities, so the way the gene keys are lined out, they go from the shadow to the gift or the pathway to the city, which is, you know, the highest form of this concept. It's intoxication. So this guy, you know, the guy that I follow on, I Actually, I will pull up his name. Richard Rudd. So I subscribe to the Gene Keys Pulse, which is like a newsletter, and they have like a really great website, and he gives audio excerpts going over the Gene Keys, because they can be complicated, but he speaks to like to drink in life, enjoy that wine. He talks about the five senses, and I suggest you go listen to it. It's just really nice. It's like, what is the most important sense of all? And he says the mouth, taste, because the arm or touch is at arm's length. Sight is outside of yourself, but and etc. The mouth, you take it in. You use your mouth for kissing, for eating, for these pleasurable sensations, for speaking your truth. Speaking of that Mercury square Uranus, and it just occurs to me that may also indicate some penalization for people speaking their truth, because this moon deals with Pluto, and it's all about deep truths. Now Mercury is not aspected to Pluto, but just this volatile conjunction we had, this it can be triggering, so it might impel, according to Steve Judd. The transits don't compel an individual to perform behavior or to have an event happen. They impel. So it's sort of like inside out, right? Because we have free will. We have choices, right? Depends on what you believe. I guess some people don't believe that. So to be divine does not mean giving up sensual delights. And that's basically what the intoxication piece speaks about. Intoxication is about being swallowed up by your own love. People manifesting such euphoric states have the gift of distracting others away from their self-destructive patterns and raising them to a higher frequency through love. I am going to stop there. That is perfect. So this is Richard Rudd's, he wrote the book, The Gene Keys, Embracing Your Higher Purpose. That is amazing. So this is, it's like, yeah. So you can be, again, using all these energies in a constructive way. Not, being a victim and then lashing out at somebody online. I'm still stuck on this square here. It's the square between Mercury and Leo and Uranus and Mars. In Taurus now, Mars is moved into Gemini today. But it's like, wow, we can, and I'm not saying like, always focus on the positive. Like, it's really impossible here with some of this stuff, right? Like, I'm looking back at the Pluto and the moon. Like, that's some nitty-gritty feels, man. But 29 degrees is an ending. And so this is the idea. Pluto has made his way through Capricorn for the last 16 years, since 2008. And what happened as soon as Pluto entered Capricorn at the 0 degree mark? Well, we had the financial crisis, right? We had the Wall Street breakdown, or the housing market crash stuff. Well, anyway, that was big banksters came out. And now that, so that rules, corporations, right? So that's why I was kind of going on about that, and truckers outside and stuff. And so now we've got Pluto entering Aquarius, and so, we started to see a technological boost with AI is like hot to trot. So we're going to see more truths unveiled as Pluto makes his way through Aquarius over the next 20 years. He enters fully at the end of this year. He's not going back to Capricorn. Like this, when he goes back in September, that's the last time in our lives that Pluto will be at 29 degrees Capricorn. Right now he's at 0 degrees, 54 minutes of Aquarius. And he's going to go back, right? Retrograde, all planets retrograde, except for the sun and the moon. They always go forward. But yeah, when he goes back into Aquarius full force, he's there till 2045. So the next 20 years, we will see some major technological shifts, And also, Aquarius, is ruled by that Uranus, by the way. And Aquarius represents the community as a whole. It represents the individual in the collective, so individuation. So I really believe, like, this Chiron in Aries is, that's about the individual. Aries rules the identity, the self, me, relationship with the self. And a lot of this is on the table with the nodes of fate in Aries and Libra. So its relationship with the self is the North Node versus the letting go of relationships and people-pleasing codependency is the South Node in Libra. So I'm covering a lot in this chart, in this podcast, and I'm going to stop it there because, whoa, we're coming on an hour here. Sorry, party people. This is a big chart, though. There's a lot going on, and I haven't posted anything in 6 months. So I'll try and keep them shorter and sweeter next time, but I don't know how possible that is with me. I didn't get into Neptune and his shenanigans. He's also at the anaretic degree, which is the 29th degree of Pisces, and also Saturn is in Pisces, sitting on that 19 degree for a long time now, because he's stationed retrograde. So he hasn't really started to move backwards yet, really. But he's on that 19 degree for a long time now. He's sitting on my homestead, asking me all these questions about how do you really like your home life, living alone in the city. Oh, I shouldn't say that online. Jeez, dang, that Mercury in Leo. Square in Uranus, that better not backfire on me. But this Neptune at the anaretic degree, this is the final degree of the whole chart. So I'm going to put a pin in it. That'll be a whole separate video. And especially, I'm working in the downtown east side, and it does rule homelessness. And there was a prediction by Molly McCord, if I haven't mentioned her already, and one of my guru teachers here. She is I take a lot of her workshops, and has a really great video about what that means, and it's just like an increase in homelessness, addiction, mental health, and in Vancouver here, we shut down a mental health ward called Riverview, and just, everybody ended up on the street and addicted. So people ask me what the answer is. I'm not saying lock people up, and like Pisces can rule like isolation and institution. So I'm not surprised. A lot of my friends and myself included were like, well, we're kind of lonely. Because this is the balsamic vinaigrette point of the chart. This is fermenting fruit, making fine wine, and then boom. I believe it's 2025. We enter Aries. So we're leaving behind the age of Pisces, and we're heading into Aquarius. So, I wanted to honor my teachers, so I believe that's, why this is a lengthy video, because I was trying to include some of their quotes. So again, Richard Rudd, the Gene Keys, Molly McCord. She's got great classes online. Timothy Halloran, I belong to his Astro School. Wonderful YouTube videos. I love he's like a little firecracker with his opinions. he's evolutionary astrologer. It's good to get, lots of different flavors. Moon Omens, I really like her. She's really good at breaking down the signs thoroughly. So some are better for beginners, but like try them all out. Susan Hopkinson. Oh, by the way, it was Orson Welles. I looked that up. Orson Welles. Check out her War of the Worlds YouTube video. It's really fascinating, and it touches on propaganda. Raising Vibrations, I like him too, Simon. He's very thorough. It might seem a little bit more complicated, but if you're an intermediate astrologer, I think he's he does break things down for beginners too. I kind of consider myself intermediate here, right? And the Leo King, I'm on. He has High Vibe TV. I'm on that as well. So all great stuff. I'm just scratching the surface from my many teachers, and my biggest teachers of all, my mama and my papa. And in light of what I started 6 months ago under that Capricorn new moon, what were you doing January 11th? I was hiking in the woods, and this one I'm doing sitting at my desk, so it's got a different feel to it, and I really like those meditative walks in the forest and moving energy. This is one of my many tools. I call it my church. And, I was just talking about my mom and a really great teacher in my life. And I wouldn't, it wouldn't be a complete 6-month journey without honoring her. So call your mother, everybody. This is hella painful when they're gone. I hope that this video finds you well. I hope that you can use these energies constructively, because it's hella hard going through those dark caves. But the more we do that, the more authentic and the more we can show up in this world with integrity and compassion and care about others. But we have to care for ourselves first. We got to mama and papa that shit. Mama ourselves and papa ourselves as mature adults do. I'm not saying replacing. I'm just saying let's take care of ourselves, and then we can take care of each other. And no more tearing each other down. We're coming into an age of building each other up. And you can't stock enough shit in your cupboards to prepare for an apocalypse. You really have to. The true preparation is insides out. And I think this kind of energy that we're feeling right now and have been going through is really motivating us, pushing us, for those of us that have been putting the work in. It's still hard. We still got work to do. For those that have been asleep, man, that's got to be hella uncomfortable weather out there for you. Because honestly, you can't get away from the world, can't hide. And none of these astrologers that I follow are going to tell you to do that. They're not going to tell you to do anything. They're just going to try and give you the information and hope it finds you in a place of empowerment, because Pluto conjunct the moon, man, that's hella power. Power. And power to the people. What do you think those truckers are doing out there? They united, they got together, and they're more powerful together. But, you're not going to join a line of trucks if you feel weak inside. And I definitely have experienced that. I mean, I didn't get into the details, but we tried to start this tenants association, and it kind of crumbled before it started. But it's like, a lot of the stuff that I encountered was like, people are afraid to say anything because they don't want to lose their home. What the fuck is that? We live in Canada, bros. Like, what is going on? So we really have to show up. Well, consider it, man. Consider showing up for yourself, and then let that shine inside out. Okay. Building while things are breaking, party people. Prepare inside out. Outwardly, prepare insides for the apocalypse. I mean, it's already here. Let's face facts. It's been here since 2020. And I didn't get into those themes, but Capricorn, those were all the great conjunctions happened in 2020. It was Pluto and Jupiter in March 2020. You know what happened then. And then in December 21st, 2020, it was Saturn and Pluto. And that is deemed to be entering the age of Aquarius, or embarking on it. And we'll get into it. More podcasts are coming. I feel like I'm on it now. So I hope this finds you well. Love you all. Keep it real, potted people.